What should one do when a husband suddenly strikes it rich? Divorce at once. Delay even a second, and you are handing over all the spoils of war to another. Listen to the full story on Hanie's Story, a place that heals your soul before every sleep. On the very day Yuan Fin became the richest man in Jiang City, I quietly shook my sleeves free and walked away, parting with him and most of his fortune. His eyes turned bloodshot, his hand tightening around my throat as he ground out each word. Jidao, you are truly ruthless. 10 years, like slaughtering the very pig you raised. Who could possibly understand the ecstasy of this moment? I suppose I must be the first woman in the world to seek divorce only because her husband has money, without any other reason at all. I discovered that Yuan Fin was already showing signs of infidelity, only a step away from a real mistake. After the momentary shock and grief had passed, I felt strangely relieved. In truth, as early as 5 years ago, when his company received its first venture capital and began to rise, I had vaguely foreseen this day would arrive. Men with money cannot escape the law of corruption. He never knew that the day he discussed infidelity with Ning Chuanxian, I was standing outside his study, holding a cup of coffee. Hey, old Yue, that TV host Hanjing is quite something. What are you planning? He replied indifferently. I may have the heart, but not the strength. And yet he gave her a Maserati. With money, one shouldn't squander so recklessly. My fingers froze. My heart pounded hollow. Maserati, truly the symbol of a reckless spender. Then I heard his weary voice. It's only a car. Forget it. I'll keep her occupied for you for a while. If you change your mind, she's yours. The matter of Tanjing ended there, and the two of them switched to business talk, as if their flirtations were nothing more than idle, smoke-filled banter. That cup of coffee eventually went down my throat. That night, I lay awake until dawn. How laughable. The year we married, we were so poor we couldn't even afford a wedding banquet. And yet now, Yuan Fin was devoting himself to preparing a grand ceremony to make it up to me. On one hand, he felt guilty toward me. On the other, he unabashedly courted another woman. Ah, the human heart is hard to fathom, the ocean of wealth impossible to measure. Divorce is certain. The sooner, the better. Delay only brings disaster. I met lawyer Ha Chu at a cafe. Coincidentally, the TV in the lobby was broadcasting a financial program hosted by none other than Tanjing. Perhaps it was through that show that she had first met Yuan Fin. A young, beautiful MC, eloquent, clever, sharp, guiding the conversation with ease. Even when facing tycoons whom ordinary people could only look up to, she remained calm and unflinching. Ha Chu, an old classmate and now a famous divorce lawyer, noticed me staring and chuckled. Jidao, this Tanjing really resembles you. I snapped at once, my voice sharp. Where exactly? She has long hair, I have short. Not alike at all. He blinked, doubtful. Whoever it is, you always deny. At the reunion, everyone mentioned it. My brows furrowed as I gave a cold laugh. Then it's truly unlucky. I had no mind to discuss Tanjing. I went straight to the point. I want to divorce Yuan Fin. Jidao, are you joking? At last he rose to the top. And now you want divorce? You married him at his poorest, and now he is richest. You leave? You really have character. I answered calmly. Ha Chu, that poor man back then, I could control. The richest man in Jiang City now, do you think I can still hold him? You've handled so many divorces, haven't you? Of all people, you should know. Who understands the filth of human hearts better than a divorce lawyer? Ha Chu was silenced, then clicked his tongue, asking cautiously. So, Yuan Fin already cheated? If he's only one step away, couldn't you stop it? Declaring judgment now seems harsh. I gave a cold laugh. If I don't strike first, he soon will. Tell me, in all your cases, was wealth divided out of love, or out of men's guilt? When the mistress becomes the wife, what you get depends entirely on his whim. I refuse to be passive. He fell mute. Jidao, your calm frightens me. Calm? This calm was forged year by year. Apart from Tanjing, even his secretary Hezhong lurked, watching for a chance. I can't recall the day, only that when I delivered lunch, through a half-closed door I saw Hejong on tiptoe, carefully fastening his tie, then producing from her lunchbox a steaming bowl of hangover soup. She always tried to please him, and though he refused, that day, the lunchbox the driver brought home still contained the untouched soup I had cooked, even the ribbon I tied left unremoved. Ash from my cigarette fell onto my finger. Ha-Chu sighed in awe. Jidao, I really should introduce my clients to learn from you. I stubbed out the cigarette, smiling faintly. Useless. They're never ruthless enough. Unwilling to let an outstanding husband fall into another's hands, believing they can be the exception. Before everything is exposed, before love runs dry, they can't bring themselves to cut clean. People shouldn't be too greedy. Both money and a man, grasp both, and you end up with nothing. But me? I always prepare an escape route. Divorce was certain. But before that, as Madame Yue, I had to meet his future mistress face to face. That evening at dinner, I deliberately turned on the program with Tanjing as host, the very episode featuring Yuan Onfin. He touched his face with a chuckle. So, even you thought I looked handsome that day? He acted so convincingly that I nearly believed the Maserati was nothing but a toy. I sipped wine and said casually, Yuanan, I've been eyeing a car. He replied offhandedly, Oh, rare to see you like cars. Which one? I'll take you to get it. I said softly, Maserati Levant. His smile faded, suspicion flickering in his eyes. Didn't you always like Range Rover? I tapped the table. Range Rover will do, so long as it's more expensive than the Maserati. Not long after, fate arranged it. Tanjing's Maserati collided head-on with my Range Rover. Just as I had calculated, though her car was too weak to withstand the crash. Standing by her car, her face filled with resentment as she looked at the crumpled front of mine. Traffic quickly snarled, police arrived, and the cameras made it clear. She was at fault. Her eyes grew wet. Couldn't you have let me pass just a little? But I stepped out slowly, and when she saw me, her voice died instantly, her face white as paper. I sneered. Beautiful car, yet you still must rush to work. Seems a Maserati cannot change fate. Only a good man can. That's how one drives at leisure, like me. She clenched her teeth, swallowed her words, and turned back to her car, agreeing to pay compensation. Watching her retreat, I sneered. I was eager for divorce, but it seemed Tanjing was even more anxious. Days later, a video came from Ning Chuanxian's phone. Yuan Nanfan sitting close beside Tanjing at a mahjong table, tenderly tying her hair as she whined for his help. My hands trembled, my breath hollowed, pain swallowing me whole. If it had been anyone but Tanjing, perhaps I would have yielded. But it was her. Soon after, Ning Chuanxian called in panic, claiming he hadn't meant to send it, begging me not to tell Yue. I answered calmly, I know. He breathed relief, but his words only proved what I already knew. I called Ha-Chu. How long to draft a divorce agreement? He groaned, urging me to calm down. If not tomorrow, I'll find another lawyer. The next day, I marched into Yuan Onfan's office. Yuan, I want something back. And what would that be? The Maserati keys. His expression shifted again and again as we locked eyes. At last he yielded. I took the keys straight to meet Tanjing at a cafe. Her eyes shrank when she saw them. She sneered. So you came to flaunt? I slid the keys across. No. A Maserati is hardly worth boasting of. I only came to return it. She froze, staring. I smiled coldly. If you want him, take him. But you won't be fighting me for him. Understand, my good little sister? Her face drained, the cup trembling in her hand. Yes, Tanjing was my half-sister. We had not met for 20 years, and both of us pretended not to recognize the other. But from the start, I had known. She coveted Yuan Onfin. How could she not have investigated who his wife was? What she hadn't expected was my counterattack. Because of her and her mother, since childhood I had engraved one lesson into my bones. Never let anyone strike first. Don't worry, soon he will no longer be your brother-in-law. Divorce? I will certainly divorce. But you will never in your life become Madame Yue, because that is one of the conditions written in my divorce agreement. I curved my lips in a cold smile, watching the blood drain from Tanjing's face, and continued my mockery. Of course you can choose to be a hidden mistress, beg him for a bit of pocket money. Only if that is the case, Jiang Lin will surely be disappointed. She always placed such high hopes on you, hoping you would surpass others. Such a lowly position as a mistress hardly matches the standards of you two mother and daughter, does it? The spark of joy in her eyes was shoved straight into an abyss, without end. She bit her lip, her voice trembling. Sister, do you hate me so much? Back then I was innocent too. I looked at her coldly as she acted her play. Seeing no effect, she switched to her sentimental piece. Father has always felt guilty toward you all these years. He only could not reach you. As for the matter of my mother and Aunt Shi, I don't even know how to explain it, but sister, in the end we are sisters of the same blood. I was unmoved, my lips curling in a sneer. Tanjing, don't perform this act before me. In this life, losing once is enough. Her face darkened. Perhaps she hadn't expected me to be so unyielding, and so she no longer pretended. Yuan Nanfan once said that for years your marriage was unhappy, mainly because you were dissatisfied, that he felt exhausted being with you. I did not deny it, but unfortunately she no longer had any chance to wedge herself in. I lifted my head high, ending the conversation, picked up my bag, and stood. Tanjing screamed behind me, Sister, as long as it can make you divorce, then I haven't lost. Why bother raising your price? At best you are only the fuse of my divorce. I left her one cold line without turning my head. When I returned home, I began a cold war with Yuan Nanfan, partly because I was furious that of all people he could have chosen, he chose my stepmother's daughter, partly because if we were already nearing divorce, there should at least be some sign, not a display of tender affection. The company's wedding planning team came to discuss decoration. I bluntly pushed the project aside, telling them to wait for new ideas. A delayed wedding, whoever wanted to keep it could keep it, I no longer needed it. That night, I dreamed a nightmare. Then my name was still Tam Jidao, 3 years old. Tanjing's mother, Jiang Lin, was my father's secretary. She dreamed of becoming a phoenix. That day she barged into our home with a large pregnant belly, clutching an ultrasound sheet in her hand. She claimed she was carrying a boy, that the Tam family was a great clan and could not lack an heir, that my mother had no fate to bear sons, and that it was best she stepped down early in exchange for more property. My mother, Xiang Chuan, a woman who only knew how to tend to the household, how could she fight against such a calculating schemer? My father clutched that ultrasound as if it were treasure, and far from being ashamed, he told Jiang Lin not to get agitated, to protect her child, then turned to shout at my mother, "Pack your things and leave at once." My mother, enraged, fainted on the spot. In the end, it was my grandmother who had to come forward to judge. She was not like my father, not so easily led by the nose. On one side, she soothed Jiang Lin. On the other, she held firmly to my mother's position. Xiang Chuan, men with money rarely stay faithful. But don't be afraid, you've already given birth to Jidao. No one can shake your place. To be fair, back then my grandmother treated me, her eldest granddaughter, quite well. My mother was persuaded, partly because she had sacrificed too much for the family already, partly because she feared if she divorced she would lose custody of me. But Jiang Lin did not stay quiet for long. After my grandmother passed away from illness, she became more arrogant. She spread everywhere that she was bearing a son, gripping my father's mind ever tighter, involving herself deeper and deeper in the company, gradually treating it as her own asset. She began urging my father to transfer property under her name, with the excuse that it would be for the future son. She claimed that if it were given to my mother, once she remarried, the money would fall into another's hands. My father was completely brainwashed, and in the end he forced my mother to sign divorce papers. As a result, my mother left with nothing. Having no income, she lost custody of me. From ages 3 to 8, those 5 years of hell, Jiang Lin became the nightmare of my life. In that house, I lived worse than a servant. Later, she gave birth to a daughter, and her lie was exposed. My father began gambling and whoring outside. My days grew ever more miserable. Jianglin vented all her rage on me. Beatings, scoldings, confinement. None were lacking. Because of those childhood wounds, I once thought I would never marry in this life. Until I met Yuanonfin. Yet now, Tanjing wished to repeat the tragedy of my mother's life once again. Had she ever asked my consent? I will never allow myself to become a copy of my mother. I, Zhidao, will never accept leaving empty-handed. When news spread that the wedding had been cancelled, Yuanonfin immediately came to demand an explanation. I casually pulled the divorce agreement from my bag. Divorce. Yuanonfin shot up as if struck by lightning. Zhidao, are you insane? I looked at him calmly. You know very well I'm not insane. These years, haven't you already sensed that I've always had this intention? His chest heaved, hands on his waist, pacing like a caged beast. Because of Tanjing? Don't be unreasonable. You know clearly she is your sister. I furiously hurled the agreement at his face. What do you know? If you really knew, you wouldn't have done such things. I screamed, my voice hoarse and breaking, trembling to pieces. Yuanonfin, do you think money allows you to despise everything? Do you know what you are doing? The paper cut his face, leaving shallow wounds, blood smearing his pallid skin. He stared at me for a long time, as if unable to believe I could react so violently. Finally, he stepped forward, crushing me in his arms. Zhidao, I only wanted you to reconcile with your old family. I was still hesitating whether to do it, but you already knew. The armor of coldness I had worn for years collapsed in that instant. A choking sob surged up, and tears fell silently, soaking his vest shoulder. Yuanonfin, you know nothing. Did you know I went to see a psychiatrist last year? You know everything. Zhidao. His grip tightened on my shoulders, his voice low and restrained. I whispered, Yuanonfin, on what grounds? What gives you the right to play savior? Have you ever lived my pain? On what grounds do you force me to forgive? On what grounds do you demand I reconcile with people I hate to my bones? Do they deserve it? He gently wiped my tears. Zhidao, trust me. I have never betrayed you. That car given to Tanjing was at Ning Chuanxian's request. He wanted to pursue her. You know well what kind of man he is. She is your sister. I shoved him away. Whether you see Tanjing as my sister or not, I won't analyze further. But her greed is obvious. No need to hide it. It doesn't matter anymore. Yuanon, sign it. On our wedding day you promised. If one day this marriage made me uncomfortable, you would let me go. Zhidao, he called, voice heavy with despair. I answered wearily, I know the company is at a crucial stage. We won't fight over property. I only take my shares. Also, Madame Yue cannot be Tanjing. This is my only condition. Do you call that fair, Zhidao? Yuanonfin swept the divorce papers aside, stepped toward me, eyes blood-red, seizing my throat and pinning me against the wall. What wrong have I done that you must be so merciless? Yuanonfin, I don't wish to test human nature. One day you will thank me for this. He stared long at me, then buried his head in my neck, his hoarse voice trembling. Zhidao, must it truly be so? Please set me free. He glared, while I met his eyes calmly. At last he flung me away, turned and scrawled his signature on the agreement without a glance. You are ruthless, Zhidao. The day the procedure was completed, I returned to dine with my mother. Since I was 8, Xiang Qiuan had found work to support us and fought back custody of me. From then on, we lived dependent on each other. For my sake, she never remarried. Seeing me arrive alone, she gently scolded, Why didn't you bring Yuanon along? I knew if I spoke the truth of divorce, we would not be able to swallow the meal, so I lied. He has a social dinner. She nodded and squeezed my hand, both earnest and anxious. Zhidao, you and Yuanon should have a child soon. Before you always said it wasn't the time. What excuse now? Looking at her fearful, uneasy figure, living in constant dread, I felt lost. If I continued this marriage, would I become like my mother? A woman without security, always flustered, always hoping for a child as a lifeline? I murmured, neither affirming nor denying. Let it be natural. Thinking back, in all those years of marriage, Yuanan Finn and I had discussed children only once. That time, in a shabby rented room, he held me tightly, his voice full of guilt and restraint. Jidao, I promised that after marrying me you would never suffer. Now I have no time to care for you, and I can't bear for you to suffer childbirth. I thought for a moment, then nodded. I understand. He was still young then, bewildered by life, scratching his nose awkwardly. If I fail in business, at least you'll still have the chance to choose again. His words made me flush red with anger. I grabbed his ear, shouting, How dare you, Yuanan Finn? Didn't you swear to stay with me forever? If you fail, now you are at the bottom. Should I choose again right now? He raised his hands in surrender at once. Don't, Jidao, I was wrong. Then he kissed me, voice sincere and tender. Anyway, you understand what I mean. Whatever happens, I don't want you to suffer. Laughing and crying, I embraced him. I won't suffer. I don't need to be a woman of sacrifice. I won't feel wronged even if you succeed later. He nodded like swearing an oath. Yes, you are the only woman I chose. Yet in the end, he still hurt me. 5 years ago, the first time I thought of divorce was because of the wife of business partner Chen Xiao. At that time, their company had just flourished, receiving a large investment, almost turning from poor to rich overnight. Chen Xiao was the first who couldn't restrain himself, rushing to take a mistress, eager to divide shares and withdraw for leisure. Since we started businesses together, I was close to Madame Chen. During those hard years, she saw me not working at the company, only hosting a few radio entertainment programs, and teased, Jidao, never seen anyone as carefree as you. The company needs you, and you won't lend a hand. I smiled. Starting a business is too hard. I can't bear the toil. Aren't you afraid when the company prospers, Yuanan Finn will forget what you sacrificed? She urged me to create more presence in the company, to secure my place as Madame Yue. But I never cared. When he was poor, I didn't disdain him. When he grew rich, I wouldn't depend on him. I was serene. My childhood had made me loathe the role of a woman who sacrifices and endures, only to end with nothing. I never believed in marriage. Without Yuanan Finn, I would never have married. I even told her I never pressured him, never complained, never bound him, so he could roam free. Wasn't it the greatest support? A man like Yuanan Finn never needed a woman's lift to succeed. Madame Chen only shook her head helplessly, speaking with the tone of someone experienced. Jidao, you are young. You don't understand yet, but you will. I only smiled, not arguing. I knew that in marriage, no one gives you security but yourself. All I wanted was that when divorce came, my grievances and losses would be a little less. These were the lessons carved in blood and bone from the story of Jiang Lin and Xiang Chuan. In truth, at that time I still hadn't truly thought of divorce. Until news of Chen Xiao's affair spread everywhere, and the couple who had once struggled side by side faced each other in court. His mistress, like Jiang Lin back then, unwilling to let Madame Chen share assets, had long conspired with him. First he withdrew funds, turned them into cash, then claimed failed ventures. Madame Chen begged Yuanan Finn to mediate. Reluctantly, he told me Chen Xiao was in fact concealing marital assets. Sadly, she reacted too slowly. Signs of infidelity had shown long before, but she was too consumed with company affairs, so busy she ignored the fire at home. At trial, Madame Chen wept bitterly, accusing him of ingratitude, of heartless betrayal. But emotions are not evidence. None of her words gained her anything. A man who no longer loves, no matter your efforts, will only throw you scraps through his fingers. After the verdict, Madame Chen, haggard, bade me farewell, eyes filled with shame. Jidao, don't be like me. If he still loves you, leave earlier. Don't wait until even guilt runs dry, leaving only calculation. Clutching the thin division papers, she left Jiang City, never to return. And Chen Xiao with his mistress lived in ease. During that time I was sunk in gloom, heavy-hearted, unable to do anything. Yuan took the chance to bring me abroad to ease my mind. On the plane, the two of us sat close, talking the whole journey. Zhidao, truth is we both knew long ago, didn't we? Chen Xiao no longer kept his heart on Wang Nan. His voice was calm, as if everything were self-evident. You think I'm too sensitive? Do you believe Chen Xiao was right to do that? I asked. Yuan pressed his fingers against the bridge of his nose, his voice weary. Zhidao, that's not what I meant. Feelings cannot be judged as right or wrong. His transfer of assets was legal. In that moment, I understood that Yuan had truly become a rational, pure, and calculating businessman. Zhidao, what are you worried about? That I'll become like Chen Xiao? Before getting off the plane, he pinched my cheek with a smile. I teased him back. Exactly. Afraid you'll stop loving me and leave me with nothing. He pulled me into his arms, laughing hoarsely. Never, Zhidao. I won't stop loving you, and I won't let you walk away with nothing. I didn't press further, only replied stubbornly. Good. Then one day, I'll leave you when you still love me the most. At that time, I'll take all of your love and your affection. Yuan gazed at me indulgently. All right, all yours.
So don't be sad anymore, okay?
Okay. I laughed loudly, my voice ringing. In that very moment, I decided that if the day truly came, I would be the one to leave first, and I did it. After recalling everything, dinner with my mother ended. I was about to confess the truth of my divorce. She was clearing the dishes, grumbling with regret. You never listen to your elders. Sooner or later you'll suffer. Right now, having a child quickly is what matters most. Mother, when that man rose to fortune, you bore him a child too. Did you gain anything from it? My mother's face instantly went pale, her lips trembling. My hand also shook slightly. Mother, I'm sorry. She looked at me for a long time, wiped her tears, and said softly, It was my mistake. As long as you know clearly in your heart, I won't say more. I know it better than anyone. Mother, I'm divorced now. You don't need to worry anymore. I took out the divorce certificate from my bag. She snatched it with shaking hands, her body swaying, pointing at me as she shouted, Zhidao, do you want to anger me to death? Divorce? You dare? Yuan cherished you so much, and yet you acted recklessly. I smiled foolishly. Mother, by the time he no longer cherishes me, I'll have lost all chance. She clutched her chest and wailed in anguish. I calmly opened a bottle of wine. Why cry? Compared to you, I'm luckier. He gave me more than half of his assets. So what? Are you satisfied? Satisfied. I nodded. Ha Chu was satisfied too. This divorce had become a textbook case study for him. By tomorrow, the news would surely send his reputation soaring like a kite. My mother glared, her face ashen. Zhidao, you've disappointed me too much. I knew she had always taken pride in my marriage. She didn't want me to repeat her tragedy, but she didn't understand. This was my turning point in fate. Mother, I've had enough of living in constant fear. Do you know? Since the divorce, even my sleep has been better. Suddenly, she seemed to remember something, tears falling like rain as she rushed to embrace me. Zhidao, it was your mother's failure. I couldn't protect you back then, left you scarred so you no longer believe in marriage. I laughed lightly, teasing her. Mother, it has nothing to do with that. It's just that these years, I've seen too many wealthy wives. Either betrayed, embittered wives sleeping apart from their husbands, or those who close their eyes, each minding their own business, or like Madame Chen, cast aside mercilessly, ending in tragedy. None of them had happy endings. She sobbed, clutching me tightly. Zhidao, but Yuan isn't like that. Can't you trust him? I shook my head. Mother, do you think becoming the richest man in Jiang City is his final destination?
No.
More than anyone, I understand Yuan's talent, vision, and ability. His future is so dazzling I dare not face it. My childhood left scars, but I thank you for from your tragedy, I learned to protect myself in love. I've never loved blindly, never let myself become a worn-out, sacrificial woman. 10 years of marriage, you and Finn never let me suffer a single day. And now, with the shares I hold, it's enough for me to live at ease for the rest of my life. Nothing gives me greater security than money. From now on, I no longer need to wear the shell of Madame Yue. I happily packed my luggage and set out traveling abroad. Under the blazing sun by the deep blue sea, I was relishing freedom when suddenly I received a call from that despicable man. Jidao, now that you're divorced, do you want to return to your father's company? I'm old. The company will belong to you sisters anyway. I laughed mockingly. Shen, are you senile? The Shin family declined long ago. Otherwise, why would someone be so giddy over a mere Maserati as if it were gold? Violent coughing came over the line, then Jiang Lin's voice cut in. Jidao, don't be too proud. Yuan Fun is only refraining for now. Sooner or later, my daughter will be Madame Yue. I curled my lips coldly. Jiang Lin, you're still as foolish as ever. At that moment, Shin's furious roar thundered. Shameless woman, hang up at once. Two sisters snatching the same man, don't you feel shame? Even if my daughter marries, it won't be to Yuan Fin. The old man must have lost his mind. Did he know who Yuan Fin was? His worthless company had gone bankrupt long ago. As for him, I couldn't care less, an unfaithful man unworthy of my daughter. Ha, playing lofty now, but what about back then? I sneered and hung up decisively. A dog-eat-dog farce, truly tiresome. A man who longed for a son all his life, in the end couldn't get one from Jiang Lin's womb, and now remembered his daughter. I had no interest, tossing that so-called prestigious family behind me, indulging in my holiday. Mother later called to say the Shin family had sent over some papers, apparently property transfer documents. Oh, he's dying already? Mother sighed. Perhaps old age brings regrets. I chuckled, telling her that the alimony Yuan Fin gave me was something Shin could never earn in his life. Not every man is as miserly with his wife as he. Mother hesitated. In truth, he only misunderstood Yuan Fin, measuring a gentleman's heart with a petty man's. I was about to hang up when she added, by the way, these days Yuan Fin eats with me every day. When busy, he even sends word in advance. He comes more often than when you were married, and outside no scandals at all. Annoyed, I replied, Mother, you don't need to tell me such things. And from now on, you don't need to host him either. To avoid more trouble, I switched off my phone. Not long after returning to the country, my best friend Wang Qiao called, ordering me to attend the class reunion. If I didn't, she would cut me off. Left with no choice, I reluctantly went. And, of course, reunions were full of gossip. As Ha Chu and I approached, even before entering we heard the shrill voice of Chen Feifei. Knew it, Yuan Fin and Jidao would divorce. No rich man stays faithful. Jidao must regret it now. Years of suffering for nothing. If only she'd chosen Huamaba back then. Some classmates retorted, Feifei, you're just jealous, aren't you? Haven't you read the news? Their divorce settlement ranked top in asset division. Now she's the richest among us. And don't forget, Huamaba is still single. Chen Feifei refused to yield. Surely Yuan Fin wronged her. That's why she got so much. Outwardly strong, but inside, she must be crying. Another sneered. Cry? Even if she does, it's in a BMW, with no rain nor sun. What's it to you? I listened a while, then glanced at Ha Chu, smiling faintly. Class reunions are truly entertaining. He gave an awkward smile. Let's go in. It's not only Chen Feifei making noise. Once in 10 years, give your friends some face. Honestly, if not for your fame, half wouldn't have shown up. I never thought your divorce would make the papers. Wang Qiao rushed over, slapping my back. Why stand outside so long? Come in. The room instantly fell silent, then one by one, everyone stood to greet me. Chen Feifei was the last, biting her lip without a word. Wang Qiao, the class president and organizer, clapped her hands. Friends, tonight spend as much as you like. Whoever is richest foots the bill. Cheers erupted, the atmosphere lively. I smiled helplessly, agreeing. All right as you wish. Ha Chu high-fived me.
Brilliant, Jidao.
Let's not be outdone. Midway through, Wang Qiao grew tipsy, mumbling she had considered a grand alumni gathering, but thought better of it. I lowered my eyes, smiling faintly. Had I not divorced Yuan Fin, perhaps it would have happened. After all, Yuan Fin and Hua Maoba were 2 years our seniors, not close enough for a joint banquet. A male classmate raised his glass, eyes admiring. In our class, I admire Jidao most. Married Yuan Fin at his poorest, left him at his richest. Who else has such spirit? Laughter and applause followed. Well said. So cool. Jidao has always been unique. Even Qin Feifei raised her glass with a smile. I smiled wryly. So in others' eyes, my actions were cool and bold. Thinking deeper, I couldn't refute. Wang Qiao banged the table, displeased. Hey, this is a reunion, not a court judging Jidao's life. Come, let's hear from everyone about the last 10 years. Ha Chu echoed her. Yes, don't let Jidao steal the spotlight. The atmosphere relaxed again. As laughter and chatter filled the room, I too drank until my face flushed, my head light. Near the end, a server opened the door, leading in a guest. Wang Qiao, you're unfair. Back in Jiang City, and didn't call me? Who else but me should host tonight? Yuan Fin strode in, radiant, composed. Wang Qiao glanced at me, guilt in her eyes. President Yue, with your busy schedule, I dared not disturb you. The room burst with laughter and teasing. Yuan Fin pulled out a chair with ease, jesting, no matter how busy, I must come. Otherwise, my wife might truly run away. All eyes turned to me. I nearly choked on fury. How long did he intend to entangle me? The divorce was signed. Did he mean to erase it? Sensing my awkwardness, Wang Qiao widened her eyes and changed the subject. Jidao, now you're the wealthiest. What kind of boyfriend will you seek? Propping my chin, I answered blandly. Most likely a cute, obedient younger man. Yuan Fin's expression darkened instantly. That night, I went to a counseling session with Hua Maoba. He too asked the same question. Jidao, you're still young. Have you ever imagined what kind of partner you want next? I tilted my head, smiling. Perhaps someone like Yuan Fin in his youth. Hua Maoba scratched his nose with a helpless smile. You truly know how to wound. I patted his hand, speaking plainly. Mobahi, it's the truth. You understand. Loving Yuan Fin consumed all my courage. You've been my psychologist for years, you know it better than anyone. He sighed, stood. Let me drive you home. In the parking lot, I suddenly stopped. Mobahi, you should move on. I am not someone you can wait for. 10 years ago, when I rejected his confession, I had said the very same words. Hua Maoba slipped his hands into his pockets, standing still in the dark, watching me for a long time. I raised my head, meeting his gaze, until a beam of headlights struck us.
Bang.
The car door slammed. Yuan Fin strode toward us. Jidao, you found someone new so quickly? His voice was as icy as the midnight air. Startled, I instinctively slipped my hand into Hua Maoba's arm. Yuan Fin clenched his jaw, yanked me back, then delivered a punch square to Hua Maoba's face. Mobahi groaned, stumbling backward. I rushed forward, pulling Yuan Fin away, shouting, Yuan Fin, are you insane? How could you strike him? I regretted my impulsive act a moment before. I never imagined he would lash out so violently. His chest heaved violently, his icy gaze fixed on Hua Maoba. He deserved to be hit. I stomped my foot in anger, at a loss for words, not knowing how to explain myself, when Yuan Fin continued. Hua Maoba, do you find it amusing to toy with me? Hua Maoba spat out a mouthful of blood, then gave a hoarse laugh. Perhaps I did tease you a little, but I warned you before, didn't I? This trick isn't for everyone. Not everyone can take one step back in order to advance 3. Gradually, I calmed down, my eyes sweeping over the two men locked in opposition. Since when had Yuan Nanfan been in contact with Hua Ma Ba? What exactly had Hua Ma Ba schemed with him? Yuan Nanfan dragged me along the riverside. He hurled a pebble into the lake with a sharp splash, startling the wild ducks floating lazily on the water into scattering in fright. Hua Ma Ba said that if you could reconcile with your blood family, if you could let go of the past, then the problems in our marriage would resolve as well. Around that time, Tanjing's program wanted me to appear, so I thought it might be worth trying once. Back then, Ning Chuan Xian had feelings for her. She came to me seeking help. I feared she might harm your sister, so I went along, pretending to be involved with her. So that was the truth behind everything with Tanjing. Yuan Nanfan had long known that our marriage was troubled. I stayed silent for a moment, then said, Ma Ba didn't deceive you. He also advised me to reconnect with my stepmother and their side of the family. Only every time he suggested it, I resisted fiercely. Jidao, they don't matter. The one I wanted to save was you, do you understand? Yuan Nanfan slammed his fist against the stone railing. It was Hua Ma Ba's words that pushed me to approach your family. I thought we had reached the end of the road. If so, why not gamble once more, take everything to the extreme, in hopes of rebirth? Looking at his regretful face, I almost laughed. Hua Ma Ba truly had a silver tongue. Those words were unmistakably his. Even someone as shrewd as Yuan Nanfan had been persuaded. In truth, neither Hua Ma Ba nor Yuan Nanfan was wrong. Both were helpless before the deadlock of my marriage, forced to risk everything, seeking life through a path of death. But so what? I still did not regret divorcing. The knots that could not be untied still remained. Coldly, I said, Yuan Nanfan, thank you for telling me this. But from now on, we are no longer walking the same road. He froze, then nearly went mad. Gripping my shoulders tightly, he growled, Jidao, haven't I made myself clear enough? Do you need me to summon Tanjing here to testify? His voice caught. Or is it that you despise me for having too much money? Then I'll go bankrupt, if that's what it takes. Stop this childish nonsense. I snapped quietly. You can go on, but I can't gamble anymore. Yuan Nanfan, it's not that I don't trust you, it's that I no longer believe in human nature. Do you understand? The road ahead of you, paved in gold and silver, has seen countless bloody tragedies. The first wives of gambling kings or of Li Jiaqing, did any of them end happily? Even their own children met ill fates. Meanwhile, the second, third, fourth wives lived in luxury. But I don't need to argue this with you. To you, it's all nonsense. To me, it's my principle, my creed. Independence, serenity, self-protection. I drew a deep breath. Right now, I am truly happy. Please let me be. Yuan Nanfan stared at me in disbelief, his body trembling slightly. Jidao, is being with me truly such agony for you? I met his gaze calmly. For the past 5 years, I haven't had a single day of genuine happiness. Yuan Nanfan fell silent, at a loss for words. In the end, we parted in silence and heaviness. I knew how bitterly disappointed he was. He had thought that by explaining, everything could be erased. But I no longer wished to endure a marriage where I had to force myself. I thought I had been clear enough. But I forgot one thing. Yuan Nanfan was never one to give up easily. When he could not sway me, he turned his efforts toward my mother. She began appearing at my apartment often, each time bringing hot meals, speaking endlessly on his behalf as though she were his personal spokesperson. It was as if she feared that with too much free time, I might find myself some sweet young man. Finally, I could not bear it, clutching my head in exasperation. Mother, aren't you being a little too lively these days? She widened her eyes with a surprised, ah, then answered a bit sheepishly. Jidao, don't you think I look younger lately? Yuan Nanfan got me a spa card, a gym membership, even enrolled me in all kinds of enrichment classes. It's wonderful. So that was it. My eyes widened, my chest loosening. In the past, she had been even more anxious than I was, harping constantly about having a child to secure my husband. But now, so carefree, It was proof that Yuanonfin's methods were far from ordinary. I sought refuge by meeting Hachu for a meal, treating it as a safe harbor. After hearing all my laments, he delivered a single cutting line. "The vice president is using your mother to move your heart." Quite the painstaking strategy. He looked at me, sharp curiosity in his eyes. "Jidao, have you really felt nothing?" I shook my head without hesitation. It wasn't merely weariness. No matter how a marriage ends, it never feels complete. Either it's torn apart in ugly battles, or like me and Yuanonfin, we stopped in time, letting go while still holding love. But there is always one who cannot accept it. So, after long thought, I decided to call Yuanonfin. I tried to use his own way of thinking to persuade him. "Yuanonfin, if we treat remarriage as a major investment project, then let me tell you, based on my risk assessment, this project fails. I won't put in capital for this gamble." Perhaps he never imagined I would phrase it that way. Silence stretched long on the other end. "Jidao, must you define our relationship like this? Can't you trust me just once?" I replied calmly. "Yuanonfin, my pessimism about this project doesn't mean it will fail. But I am willing to take full responsibility for my current decision." I knew then that there was no return for us. Only by stepping out of this marriage did I feel it so deeply, down to my bones. His voice came cold, almost mocking. "Jidao, I can feel you're doing everything you can to force me to let go." I did not argue. As I was about to hang up, I said, "Through divorce, you gave me your greatest tolerance and respect. Now, I won't stop you from doing anything. But, Yuanonfin, I hope you will let go soon." My mother stood leaning at the door, her expression pained yet helpless. "Jidao, today I learned my daughter has such a hard heart. Rational, decisive, leaving him no hope." I only answered softly, "Perhaps I never should have married at all. It's just a pity I didn't realize sooner that I wasn't strong enough to shoulder a marriage." Yuanonfin appeared once again on Tanjing's program. Unlike last time, when he wore a crisp suit radiating the aura of a businessman, this time he looked thinner, dressed in simple sportswear. Wang Qiao called to tease me. "Jidao, Yuanonfin is really giving it his all, huh? Looking like this, he does seem younger. Afraid you'll truly be seduced by some little fresh meat." I didn't refute her. In Jiang City, the story of the vice president chasing his ex-wife had long since ceased to surprise anyone. It was only a question of who would give in first. Or rather, Yuanonfin was determined to battle me to the end. This time, the interview with Tanjing was not as smooth as before. She seemed awkward. "Has President Yue taken up a new sport recently?" she asked. Yuanonfin responded coolly, self-deprecating. "No. I only wanted someone to see that I'm not so lacking in appearance." Tanjing forced a smile, probing, "Then congratulations on your new love." "Thank you." His voice was flat as water. His aloofness and sparing words left Tanjing fumbling, unable to carry the conversation. My mother even put on her reading glasses, watching seriously from beginning to end. At last, she turned to me. "Jidao, isn't Yuanonfin going on television just to defend you?" I laughed. "Mother, aren't you supposed to be practicing health preservation? Go to sleep and keep up your beauty." She stretched with an "oh dear," chuckling. "Affairs of love and romance among you youngsters, I surrender." Before she went to her room, I came up behind and hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Mother. Seeing you living happily now makes me truly happy too." I spoke with all sincerity. She patted my hand, smiling. "Jidao, I too should live for myself now. Someday I'll introduce you to someone." I burst out laughing in surprise. "Really?" My mother, for once, blushed. "I've known him for a while. We met in class. I just didn't dare tell you yet." "Why not? I couldn't be happier for you." I truly was glad for her. Before bed, she couldn't help but speak again. "Jidao, I've begun a new life. I'm no longer afraid of the future. Couldn't you give Yuanonfin one more chance?" I drew a deep breath, answering helplessly, "Mother, you don't need to feel guilty. If childhood ever scarred me, then now I can assure you, it has become a positive strength, not a burden. Believe me, I can live well alone. Right now, I am truly, truly happy. So happy, I don't want a second choice. The news of Jiang City's richest CEO, Yuan Fin, divorcing with a massive settlement had not yet cooled when he stirred another storm, publicly confessing to his ex-wife. Even on Wang Qiao's show Deep Talk, she couldn't resist teasing. Good heavens, is there only one woman named Ji Dao in all of Jiang City? It's laughable and tragic at once. That day, after I finished taping and stepped out of the station, Hajong was already waiting in the parking lot. I lowered the car window, and she politely handed me a folder. Madam Yue, this is the list of suppliers for the upcoming bidding conference. President Yuan Fin hopes you can preside over it. I took it, flipping through a few pages. Unsurprisingly, I saw the name Xinghe Foods. That small company had been built by my father, Shen Tinghe, decades ago. Once so arrogant he abandoned his wife and child, yet now forced to swallow his pride and beg under my hand. I couldn't deny the surge of tangled emotions within me. Hajong added, "Please don't worry, madam. This time, the director of procurement will fully cooperate with you." I nodded, accepting this gesture of goodwill from Yuan Fin, as long as he didn't mention remarriage. I would keep my word too, not standing in his way. Besides, I had wanted to face the Shin family again. I tossed the folder onto the passenger seat and glanced at Hajong with a smile. Secretary, he looks radiant these days. Could it be good news? She flushed slightly, fumbled in her bag, and produced a wedding invitation. I'm getting married next month. I hope Madame Yue will honor me with your presence. I stared at her for a long time. She broke into a sweat under my gaze, lowering her head to murmur, "Madam, if I ever offended you in the past, please forgive me." I gave a cold snort without answering. I was no saint. She had indeed irritated me before, so there was no need to feign magnanimity. Clearly, this invitation was her true purpose. To invite me to a company meeting, there was no need for the CEO's secretary to wait in a parking lot. It seemed Yuan Fin had grown more delicate, trying to resolve for me all the people and matters that once wounded me. I couldn't say I wasn't moved, but it ended there. As the two largest shareholders, letting go of past grievances was a blessing for the corporation. At the supplier conference, I sat firmly in the chairman's seat. With or without Yuan Fin, I held half the shares legitimately. The entire Shin family was present. As Jiang Lin had once said, without Yuan Fin, Xinghe Foods would have collapsed long ago. When the meeting ended, the Shin family invited me to dinner. I had barely sat down when Yuan Fin arrived, taking the seat beside me. He asked softly, "Ji Dao, was the meeting smooth?" I was too busy today to ask earlier. He seemed utterly unconcerned about the three Shins standing awkwardly to greet him. I suppressed a laugh. It went fine. Quite enjoyable. Shen Tinghe coughed, clenching his fists, and sat down stiffly. Jiang Lin and Shen Ting's faces were twisted with embarrassment. Unable to hold back, Jiang Lin put on airs. "Yuan Fin, Ji Dao, you're divorced, yet still so close?" I didn't bother to answer. Yuan Fin shot her a glance. "Thanks for your concern. Our divorce was only for show." I gave a cold laugh. We were a proper married couple. Even in divorce, we did it with dignity. Not like certain people, climbing from mistress to wife, yet still reaping only disgrace. Even your children inherit the habit of clawing upward shamelessly. Jiang Lin's face went livid, her lips trembling. She leapt up, pointing at us, her voice shrill. "Yuan Fin, Ji Dao, you too." Yuan Fin's face was colder than frost. Shen Ting quickly stood, raising his glass. "Brother-in-law, thank you for supporting our company all this time. We'll be launching more new products soon." Yuan Fin unbuttoned his cuff, laid his hand on the table, and said flatly, "Product selection at Yue Corp has always been based on fairness. If Miss Shen believes in her products, that's fine. But Xinghe was on the brink of bankruptcy. Where does the confidence come from? Otherwise, Shinting wouldn't have abandoned her young lady pride to work as a local TV host in Jiang City." Shinting went pale, glancing at me in desperation. "Sister, the company is yours too." Shinting hastily cut in. Zhidao, your sister is right. When you have time, come handle the transfer procedures. I sneered. Mr. Shin, no need. Your scheming is wasted on me. Leave it all to your son. Shin Tinghe grew so furious he choked on his coughs. Jiang Lin glared, her voice screeching. Zhidao, he offered you half the company and I didn't object. Now you act as if you've done anything for it. I answered icily. So, you sent Shin Ting to seduce Yuan Onfin, keeping the company while climbing into the seat of Madame Yue. Truly killing two birds with one stone. Shin Ting flailed to explain. Sister, you misunderstood. Saying that is the same as forcing me to death. What are you apologizing for? I thought bitterly. In your eyes, I was always the enemy to be hated. Needing help, you let Yuan Onfin set a trap, waited for me to fall in, then kicked me aside. Only you were naive enough to believe Yuan Onfin loved you and divorced for you. Jiang Lin's shameless theatrics were unchanged after all these years, crying and accusing before right or wrong could be weighed, thrusting the villain's hat onto me. To outsiders, it would seem Yuan Onfin betrayed her, while he and I colluded to destroy the Shin family's innocent girl. Before I could speak, Yuan Onfin slammed the table and stood. Madam Shin, watch your words. Do you want me to show the text messages where Shinting begged me for help, broadcast them to the world? He brandished his phone, giving Shinting no face at all. You were hounded by Ning Chuanxian, terrified to offend him. That day playing mahjong, you asked me to act with you in a charade before him. Tell me, Miss Shin, did a dog eat your memory? I slowly turned to look at Shinting, inwardly sighing. Such calculation, such careful plotting, every move deliberate. Until now, I hadn't asked where that damning video came from. So it had all been her self-directed drama. I laughed coldly. Your fear of Ning Chuanxian was just an excuse. Your true aim was to manufacture ambiguity with Yuan Onfin, forcing our divorce, wasn't it? Shinting's face burned red, her body trembling with shame, yet she still cast a desperate, unwilling look at Yuan Onfin, proof enough of her obsession. Yuan Onfin turned to me, voice tinged with self-mockery. Zhidao, I was blinded then. If she were truly your sister, Ning Chuanxian wouldn't have dared touch her even with 800 livers of courage. Jiang Lin was struck dumb, her heavily made-up face collapsing without a shred of dignity. Shinting had lost all composure, his face gray as pig's liver, pointing at them both and roaring, You vile woman, dragging your daughter down into the muck with you. But before he could finish, his eyes rolled back and he collapsed backward. Jiang Lin and Shinting lunged to catch him as the entire table fell into chaos. I called emergency services, then left the restaurant with Yuan Onfin. We didn't hail a car, just walked in silence along the street for a long time. Only when I had calmed did I ask slowly, So, you no longer want me to reconcile with my old family? Yuan Onfin gave me a helpless look, eyes filled with indulgence and a hint of defeat. Isn't there a saying, if you can't beat them, join them? Zhidao, you've won. In the end, Yuan Onfin and I never remarried. I lived more freely, more brilliantly, while he grew calmer in acceptance. Some mocked him. How long? And still he could not win me back. Perhaps he would spend his life merely as my subordinate. He only answered with a single sweet, resigned line. Subscribe to the channel for more stories.